school board and the bond committee. So we're happy to be here and host this for you guys. I hope you guys have a great evening. There's snacks, drinks. The punch I made sure was made, and it's delicious. I was part of the tasting committee for that one, and that one worked out really well. Anyway, without further ado, let's pass it off to Holly.
Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. I'll make sure my clicker works. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening and joining us for this informational meeting about our upcoming bond election for Gordon ISD. We'll try not to take up too much of your evening and let you get back to your kiddos and families and your nighttime routines. I would like to say a special thank you to First Baptist Church and Justin Carter for their willingness to let us come and use this fellowship hall this evening. Thank you to Julie and Missy and Bree for their hospitality. They really took care of us in terms of some snacks. And if you know those ladies, they're at every event that the school district hosts. And so they have servant hearts, and so it just continues at this event tonight. The First Baptist Church is a vital support system for Gordon ISD, and it has been for many decades, and we're so very thankful. It truly takes a village to raise kids these days, and the First Baptist Church has played an integral role in developing minds and leaders of the future. I grew up in this church, and it helped mold me from a very young age. I was part of the GAs and the youth group. We had a puppet team. We did puppets when we were kids. And I was a thriving competitor on the Bible drills team. And from vacation Bible school to youth groups, if they had it, you name it, I was here. My mom even made me sing a solo once in the children's choir, and I emphasize once. To her disappointment, she was the church pianist for many years, and I got shortchanged in the musical department, and so I got demoted to page turner at Christmas cantatas and Sunday specials. And so, but I can't stand before you today and just tell you what a blessing that the FBC has been and what an impact it had on my life and so many youth of our community. So thank you, FBC, for the work that you do in our community. With me today, I wanted to introduce you my passionate team who truly cares about our mission and vision at Gordon ISD. They are truly heroes, particularly this year, for all of their work that they did during a pandemic. No one gave us a rule book for how to open school during a pandemic, and they took that task on with open arms. So with me today, and if you'll stand, I have my principal, Katie Elrod, and I have my assistant principal, Shelly Crenshaw, my business manager, Jessica Hendrickson, and my special programs coordinator, Jennifer Salinas. We are an eclectic bunch. Miss Hendrickson and I are both Gordon born and raised, and we choose to raise our families here in this community. We like to say that we survived the Gordon school system, and we turned out all right. Now, just don't go asking everybody about turning out all right. They may disagree with that. One of us, Miss Elrod, started her teaching career here at Gordon ISD as a first-year teacher, and she fell in love with the school and community, and so she has chosen to stay and work her way up through the ranks and is now an administrator. Both Miss Crenshaw and Miss Salinas left neighboring larger districts and both drive over 30 minutes because they love the students of Gordon, the school, and this community. We all choose Gordon ISD. I would also like to recognize our trustees that we have here with us today. They are our true visionaries and leaders for our district. So we have trustee Kathy Culbertson with us, and we have trustee Richard Holder here with us today. So we thank you for your vision and leadership. So I wanted to take a little bit of time and share with you who we are as a district. Gordon ISD houses grades pre-K through 12, and we're all under one roof. We currently have 220 students enrolled, which is an 18% increase from 2 years ago. Gordon ISD employs 34 employees, 20 of whom are teachers. And a unique fact about Gordon ISD is we elected a couple of years ago a non-traditional school calendar and operate on a 4-day school week, Monday through Thursday. To be completely transparent, this was a decision based on recruiting highly qualified and effective teachers and staff and keeping them here. We are nestled here in Peloponnese County with many districts within 15 to 30 miles, and we're very close to some larger, higher paying districts. We feel that highly effective teachers are our best chance at building and maintaining a strong and academically successful district. But an unexpected event from that calendar change was that 18% growth in student enrollment, which was a great problem for our little district. But when the pandemic hit last March, we were a little nervous how that would impact our growth and if we would sustain it. So when we opened our doors on August 4th with face-to-face instruction, with less than 10% of our students choosing remote learning, we decided we might have a problem on our hands. They stayed with us, and that was great. So by October, we had such few students electing remote, we decided to move back to completely face-to-face instruction. So once we were able to know that we could sustain this growth, we knew we had to start planning to address critical needs and start planning for future growth. This map outlines our district lines. Our district covers a total of 158 square miles. GISD includes areas in both Palo Pinto and Erath counties. We stretch as far north as Highway 180, and then a little north of the town of Palo Pinto, and as far as south as Highway 108 and County Road 125, which is located just south of the interstate past Barbie and Exxon. To the west, our district includes the city of Mingus, and as far east of 7R and Blue Flat Roads. We currently cover these 158 miles with 2 bus routes. This is a snapshot of our student demographics. So 73% of our students are white, 22% are Hispanic, and 5% are two or more races. Our district consists of 60% of students who are considered economically disadvantaged, and that number does increase each year. About 8% of our students are bilingual, and we serve about 9% through special education. We also serve about 29% of our students in our response to intervention program, which gives students targeted assistance in the areas of reading and math. Gordon ISD has performed strongly in the Texas Academic Accountability System. The state measures academic success in 3 domains: student achievement, school progress, and closing the gaps. This graph demonstrates how we rated during the 2018-2019 school year, which was our last rating that the state conducted prior to the pandemic. We scored an overall 89, and we were rated an overall with a letter B. We scored a 90 in student achievement, 88 in school progress, and 87 in closing the gaps. An A rating is always what we're achieving for, and we sure hope to attain that in the near future, but we were pretty pleased with an 89. Another component to school accountability is distinction designations in the areas of ELA reading, mathematics, science, social studies, comparative academic growth, comparative closing the gaps, and post-secondary readiness. This measurement compares districts across the state and recognizes districts who perform at a higher rate. I am proud to say that Gordon ISD received 6 out of these 7 distinctions, which puts us in the top 3% in the state for schools our size. So that was a huge accomplishment for us. We're super proud of our teachers and staff. So many of our t-shirts and school apparel, you'll see we have a slogan, and we say, "We are Gordon." And so we just wanted to share a few slides and help you get a better understanding of who Gordon ISD really is today. Academics is always our top priority. We know that a child's education is their ticket to access all their hopes and dreams. We offer a guaranteed and viable curriculum that is centered around the state learning objectives, and in teacher talk, that's the TEACs. We encourage students to take academic risks and push each child to reach their highest potential. We offer programs to reach all students, such as Gifted and Talented, National Honor Society, Student Council, UIL Academics, Dyslexia, ESL, Special Education, 504, and Response to Intervention. We are required to offer all the academic programs that larger districts are required to do, just with fewer personnel to do it. This here is a picture of our junior high UIL academic champions this year. Both our elementary and junior high were champions, district champions, and our high school ended up in 3rd place. And we actually had some regional qualifiers that will move on April 17th to go compete at the regional level. So we're super proud of our academic performances. We have partnered with both Ranger and Weatherford College to provide many dual credit and early collegiate opportunities such as an associate's degree, pre-nursing, EMS, and all the basics that will transfer to a 4-year university. We currently have 17 high school students enrolled in dual credit, and we're proud to announce that we will have our first ever student not only graduating with 1 associate's degree, but 2. Pretty impressive for that young lady. The arts is another area that we strive in excellence. This is our award-winning one-act play who advanced by district this year and narrowly missing regionals as an alternate. We teach theater at grades 8 and 11 and have one-act plays in both junior high and high school. Our littlest Longhorns experience the arts through STEAM, which is a designated period during the day that they get to explore science, technology, engineering, art, and math in a creative way. The arts are a valued part of our curriculum and the area we look forward to growing in and adding opportunities for our students. So due to our size, the minute you walk on our campus, you understand the meaning of family. We talk a lot about family with our students. We do value the personal relationships that we get to build with our students. Again, the FBC is an extended member of our family here at Gordon ISD, and I see lots of volunteers in the audience, and we really appreciate it. Some die-hard concession stand workers, and we know you love our districts if you show up and you work at one track meet and you show up to the next one, because it is hard work. And so we appreciate all of our volunteers. We appreciate that very much. So again, due to our size, we do not let that try to hinder our opportunities for our students. We want them to have access. We seek many experiences beyond the classroom in the arts and the real world. Pictured is a group of 3rd graders attending the Nutcracker Bass Hall. We have a long-lasting partnership with the Walton family, and they allow us to take kids to the Bass Hall in grades 1st through 12 each and every year. Also pictured is a trip we took a few years ago with some students to Washington, D.C. and to New York. So many of our students have very limited opportunities to sometimes leave the Palo Pinto County, and so we try to provide them with as many as possible so they can explore other cultures and parts of the world. So we have visited the Holocaust Museum, the Perot Museum, and even Costa Rica. That was a fun one. We have a strong athletic program at Gordon ISD, and we involve about 90% of our student body in some type of athletic program. While we take pride in our academic performances, it's always a nice bonus when you're winning champions on the court or on the football field. We currently offer cross country, football, basketball, cheerleading, softball, baseball, and track and golf. We also have a thriving youth association that helps support our athletic programs. Our philosophy is if we can keep kids busy, it keeps them out of trouble. At Gordon ISD, we understand not all students are college bound. We have a diversified student body, and they each have their own talents and goals after high school. We never use the excuse that we're too small to not provide students opportunities. Yes, it does have its challenges, but it also allows us the opportunity to be super creative. We have worked diligently to cultivate career and technical programs that provide students to enter job-related fields in many high-need areas such as welding, ag mechanics, and business. This is our blue ribbon team this year at the San Antonio Stock Show, and this is their show-stopping engine stand. And I say show-stopping, they built the stand, but the engine itself, when they would crank that bad boy up in San Antonio, I think everybody come running. So we're proud of this girls' team. We have many students that are active in 4-H and FFA, and they show animals, as well as students who compete at the career and leadership opportunities at conferences. We have become known in our parts for our tractor restorations. Pictured is a Woods and Copeland tractor, and to me that just means a really big tractor that our students are presently working on to restore. And of course I had to include our all-girls tractor team project from last year. This is their John Deere project, and she was a beauty. They did a really good job. And finally, this is our student council. It's a campus leadership team that serves the district in many ways. They are elected by their peers, and they participate in many school and community activities, and these kids definitely understand what being a servant leader is and the importance of giving back to their community. So now that you better understand who we are, I wanted to share a little history about the facilities of Gordon ISD. The old gym, as we call it, is the beautiful rock structure on the main highway. We call it our Hoosiers Gym now. She was built in 1932 as a WPA project. Though she is showing her age, we use it each and every day for instructional purposes. Our main building was was the first bond project for our community, and it was constructed in 1967. It has great bones, and the district has done an excellent job of maintaining this facility. The ag facility was constructed in 1975 and funded through local funds, and the elementary wing was added in 1980 as another local funding project. The library, which now serves as a classroom due to growth, and 3 additional classrooms, which now serve as our offices for security purposes, were built in 1992, again through local funds. The new gymnasium was constructed in 1999 and was the second bond project which was approved by voters. And yes, we still call it the new gym, even though it's 22 years old. The district completed that bond program, which lowered our taxes this year for our district and made our INS tax rate 0. Our taxpayers did see a decrease in our overall taxes this school year from $1.01 to $0.9433. Our current needs of the district do exceed capabilities of the district's maintenance and operations budget and doesn't allow us to address facility needs as it ages and as we grow. With our diversifying student body, we no longer can avoid compliance in building codes such as ADA that didn't exist when the structures were built. We no longer cannot address our crumbling plumbing issues and overcrowded classrooms, as well as outdated safety and security features. So this visual is very impactful. The enrollment capacity of the existing instructional facilities is 230 students. That's that red line up there. As you can see, enrollment has been at or near capacity for almost a decade. To clarify, capacity is determined by a formula based on square footage established by the Texas Education Agency. Inherent to the formula is an assumption that the square footage of a facility is divided into appropriate right-sized classrooms for instructional spaces. So in the fall of 2019, a long-range planning committee was formed. This committee met for a total of 4 times and then was halted in its tracks due to the pandemic. We reconvened this December and diversified our committee members to include representation from our district. We also had 2 trustees serve as liaisons, and it was very beneficial to have our board liaisons and admin advisory members to collaborate to offer insights as part of these discussions this year. However, they were not voting members. The committee and district were guided by professional architects, Glenda Ramsey and C.W. Ferris of Harper Perkins Architect, and financial advisors Doug Witt and Robert White of Samco. The next series of slides will tell the story, the who, what, where, and why of the committee's work. Under the leadership of this team, the Long Range Planning Committee became a top priority. The district is thankful for the committee's willingness to engage in this process, to demonstrate ownership for this challenging work, and to do so with a high level of energy and a laser-like focus to the responsibility. This was certainly a time commitment for our committee members. Each of these tasks were an integral component of the committee's work that was done in earnest as they focused on what facilities are necessary to meet the instructional needs of today's students, as well as those in the foreseeable future. Our committee did make site visits to other campuses. We looked at renovated facilities as well as new facilities. So we went and saw Stephenville Central Elementary, Brock Elementary, Brock Middle, Jacksboro Elementary and High School, and Granbury High School. We were really looking at construction and some design elements, as well as classroom spaces. This slide and the next provide an overview of the various ways input was solicited from those directly associated with Gordon ISD, as well as formal assessments from industry professionals. This has been an ongoing process since the fall of 2016, and it's also been guided by 4 different superintendents. And so we have done some input surveys from our stakeholders. We held in December 2017, we held a very well-attended community forum in our school cafeteria. And we did a facilities assessment by Gallagher Construction Services in June of 2019. And we've had ongoing safety and security audits that are required by the state as well as we conducted one through TASB as well. We last year, prior to the pandemic, in May of 2019, we started doing some school finance presentations for our community. We held one at the school district. We held one out at the 7R community. And we also had a tour of our facilities. We called it a coffee and chat with our 7R residents to come tour our facilities at GISD. State law requires school districts to hold an election and get permission from voters to sell bonds in order to finance proposed school facilities. Bonds are sold to fund facility and capital improvements that last for a number of years. These improvements are too large to be included in the day-to-day operating budgets. Bond money can only be used for new schools and facilities, expansions and renovations, including safety and security enhancements, furniture, technology, and buses. Bonds may not be used for personnel raises, utilities, and other operating expenses. On February 10th, 2021, the Long Range Planning Committee made a bond proposal to our Board of Trustees. Our trustees voted to accept the bond proposal as presented and voted to call an election for May 1st, 2021. The bond proposal includes constructing a new 16,000 square foot secondary facility for grades 5 through 12. This will include approximately 15 classrooms that includes 2 new science labs and a computer lab. The proposal includes a remodel and renovation of our current secondary building and converting it to our elementary school, which will house grades pre-K through 4. We plan to include a library and remodel our current cafeteria and kitchen. The 2 buildings will be connected through a 3,200 square foot connector that will include admin's office spaces and a student collaboration center, along with some restrooms. A new transportation center is planned for, as well as to accommodate our fleet of vehicles, including some much needed new buses that we got this year. We currently have 8 buses in our fleet, 3 of which are new to us this year, and this transportation center will allow us to fit our newer, larger buses that we had to get due to our increased route sizes and secure them as well from the weather and just make sure that they are secure. So this bond proposal will be a 2-proposition bond, as we did include one athletic item replacing the track with a new foundation and surface. The track foundation has not been replaced since it was originally put in 1991, and the current surface has cracks in multiple places that has created a safety concerns and jeopardizes us hosting track meets in the foreseeable future. We have had our cracks addressed throughout the years. They come in and they address specific cracks, but we end up having new cracks, or they will once crack again. The track has to be a second proposition due to new rules associated with House Bill 3 and the fact that our stadium can seat over 1,000 people. I've already been asked in the community if we are adding 2 lanes and moving our bleachers to make it an 8-lane track, and the answer is no. We are just trying to maintain and repair what we currently have. So my wonderful team is going to pass out a couple of brochures for you to take with you, and they include some bond facts, and it actually includes a picture of the site plan that we have. So I've got it up here on the screen. I was just going to walk you through it just a little bit. It's a little hard to see sometimes online, and so hopefully you can see this and take it home with you. Over here, I'll try not to get in the way. This is Main Street, so this is FM 919. And so just to put it into reference, right here is our old rock gym. So it's what you pass by on the highway. We're proposing to build our new secondary facility, currently where the playground is. So the front of our building would now have a designated front entrance facing the highway, where people and visitors would recognize the entrance of the school. It would include a covered area for student drop-off, as well as some parking spaces here for drop-off and visitors. This here is the connecting element that we were talking about that will include restrooms, some office spaces, and a student collaboration center. Our committee was pretty convicted in that we wanted our board and ISD to remain under one roof. It goes back to that family element. We share lots of staff Our admin team worked with kiddos all the way from pre-K to 12th grade, and we wanted to make sure that we had access to all of our students. So that will be that element there. And this is currently our secondary building. It's where our main entrance is. It's when, if you all have visited the school, this is where you come in. So this will be remodeled and renovated for our elementary. It does include a covered area here for student pickup and drop off. And if you're a parent, you never know when the weather's bad, it sure is nice to have a place for your kiddos to wait for you when you come through the pickup line. We have also designated some new restrooms here on the side for our younger grades, pre-K, kinder, first grade, because we like those kiddos to have their restrooms there in their classrooms for easy access and for monitoring purposes. This here is very lightly shaded on the screen, but this is our current elementary wing, and this will be demolished, and we will relocate our playground off of the highway, which was really important to our citizens committee, to move that away from the highway for safety and security reasons and move it back here in this area off of the road. And so this is the proposal for our facilities. And so you have a copy of that in there, so if you have any questions, you can look at that and ask me here in a little bit. There we go. This is an estimated timeline of completion. If the bond does pass, we will immediately begin the design process. Pending no COVID surprises, this timeline was provided by our architect. I don't know, can y'all read that, or do y'all need me to? Okay. Richard's old, he says they can't do it back there. Design process begins immediately and construction documents issued by the end of 2021. So we will definitely, beginning in May, start that design process with our architect and our staff. Construction of the secondary facility will be planned to begin in January of 2022. They have given us an expected timeline of 12 months to construct. Once the secondary facility is occupied, renovations and remodeling of the elementary would begin. Once the remodeled elementary is occupied, demolition of the existing elementary wing would begin. And we're expecting this process to take anywhere from 18 to 24 months to complete once the construction begins. Again, pending COVID, they always gave us that caveat, but that is our planned proposal. I know this chart is what many of us are most interested in. This chart is a representation of the tax impact on homes that are most represented in our district. We want to provide our voters with daily, monthly, and annual expected tax increases. But note, if your household has qualified for the 65 and older tax freeze, this bond will not impact your household taxes. For Proposition B, the tax impact chart reflects the track project because, as you remember, this is a standalone proposition. This is based on a bond project cost proposal for $800,000. As a reminder, there are no tax increases above the frozen level of the homestead of taxpayers 65 years of age and older who have applied for and received the age 65 tax freeze. This bond will not impact those who qualify as their tax rate is frozen. If you have any questions about your tax freeze, or any questions about your personal taxes, I highly encourage you to contact the Palo Pinto County Appraisal Office and speak to Donna Epperson. She is super knowledgeable and can walk you through that. Again, these are estimations, but if you have a particular question in relations to your home or to your farmland or acreage, they are experts in this field. My husband probably says that I think I'm an expert in a lot of things. This is definitely not one, but I have talked to Donna, and she is willing to answer any questions that you may have. She's a great resource for our county. Listed here are early voting dates and times, as well as voting sites. The first opportunity to vote is April 19th, and the last opportunity to vote will be on Election Day, which is May 1st. I did want to extend an invitation to you all to come and tour our GISD facilities, and that will occur on Thursday, April 8th at 5 p.m. We're going to open our doors for anyone that would like to come and walk through the school. We invite you to come and get a feel for who Gordon ISD truly is. It's helpful to walk the building and to see some of these things for yourself. Following our tour, we also have an exciting event. Our one-act play is going to be offering a dinner, kind of like a dinner and a movie, but they're going to be doing dinner and a play. And so it's a great play, by the way. And so if you're not doing anything on Thursday, we encourage you to come out and join us for a tour. But the show is something you definitely don't want to miss. So I do want to thank you for taking time out of your evening and coming to listen. This is important to all of us. I understand this is a big ask of our community, as I too am a taxpayer in this district. I can stand before you today and honestly say our committee of community members took their job very seriously and presented a bond package that addresses current needs and plans for the future of our school. Know we have an open door, and feel free to reach out and drop by anytime that you have questions. Again, thank you all for your investment in Gordon ISD. We are just blessed with such a great community, great kids, and great parents. I would like to give you the opportunity, if you have any questions, you can ask them at this time. Our next presenter is going to be Laura Jones, and she's a retired educator and administrator from the Arlington ISD School District, and she was a member on our GISD community member and chaired our long-range planning committee. And she is a resident of our Gordon ISD School District. She's now leading our For Our Children Citizens Committee. So due to rules and regulations, I will be exiting once she begins speaking. As the superintendent of the district, I have very defined roles as the superintendent, and I am a rule follower. Therefore, I'm going to open the floor if anybody has any questions before I leave. If you have any questions for me, you are welcome to ask away.
I have a question. On this site plan, it says, it's dark in here, something about
We might turn the lights on for a minute.
the playground says by owner back behind the new gym.
Yes, and Laura's going to touch on that a little bit here in a little bit. She's going to actually share a long-range plan with you here in a little bit. That is where our final destination for our playground will be. By owner means we're moving the playground ourselves. If the bond passes, GISD staff members will be moving the playground ourselves. And so, but we are going to move it currently on this side where the grassy area to the left of or to the west of our elementary ring right now.
Why would you not incorporate that into the security fence?
There is, I'm sorry, I probably missed that. Let me go back, William. That's a great question. Let me go back here.
What I see on this site plan, the security fence just encompasses up to the new gym.
Perimeter, yeah. So there's actually a plan for this to have perimeter here. So this will all be secured here. What our plan is, GISD, as in ourselves, we're actually going to fence this in right here where our playground is, so our littles we don't want them going all over that area. It's quite large, and so we are going to build a temporary fence right here when we move it this summer.
Why would you build a temporary fence when it needs to be a security fence from the get-go?
True. So just cost inhibiting. And what we have right now, we have a chain link fence right now, and that's what we'll be using.
It's a security fence.
Our chain link fence, yes.
And I also have another question. Where's the new transportation building going to be?
So, great question. We have not determined the location of where that will be. The district does own some land, and we have several options, but we have not determined exactly where that will be just yet.
So what's wrong with the old transportation building?
So the old transportation building right now, there's nothing wrong with it. We have some new 77 passenger buses, and we cannot, first off, the awning is not long enough to completely cover the length of those buses, and it's also very difficult with 8 buses to get in. We can't fit them all in that area very well, and to maneuver. Yes, sir. We are keeping 8 buses. We just auctioned off 3 very old buses, yes.
So what's the purpose of 8 buses?
So we have 8 buses on our fleet because of the number of activities that we go on. And a lot of our buses in that fleet are aging. And so I can be very honest and transparent. We have lots of times that some of those buses are in the shop being worked on. If you've ever driven south of the county where some of our bus routes are, they're pretty rough county roads. They're pretty rough on our buses, and so we do have to maintain them quite a bit. It just shakes and moves our buses quite a bit, so we have to have them worked on.
Why wouldn't you get rid of some of the older costly buses now that we have 3 new buses?
Yes. So that's our plan, and so that was part of our district plan and district budget plan was to start replacing buses. Buses are very costly, so we have to do that on a schedule, and so we have just started that schedule. We had not bought a bus since 2014, and so this summer we did and planned for that, and so we are working on getting on a rotation schedule to start replacing them, because it's time. It's definitely time.
So why is there no money going towards the ag shop or anything on that side of the street?
So that was a big discussion that we had in our committee meetings. That's definitely a priority for the district. I think Ms. Jones will speak on that just a little bit when we talk about our long-range planning. And so we have some district planning set aside to address that facility. It's a great facility within itself. It definitely needs some upgrades, and we plan to address that on the district side. We just couldn't stretch our dollars enough to include that in this bond package. Yes, sir.
Well, you may have explained this, and I just couldn't hear it. How are we going to facilitate, or how are you going to facilitate these kids as far as your continuing education of them? Based on what I heard a while ago, it's a 24-month process. Given the fact that we're already at capacity, how are we going to shuffle people around and continue to educate them while it's going on?
Great question. That was very important to us. We did not want to have to shuffle kids around during this process. We wanted to maintain our educational programs, and so that's why this is in a little bit in phases. So our plan is to build this facility first, so we can stay in our current buildings as we are. To be completely honest, if we see another 18% growth, which sometimes COVID has really thrown a lot of predictions of growth and things like that off, we would be looking at temporary portable buildings really to fit that. We've got some class sizes that are at really close to capacity in some of our disapportioned classroom sizes. And so what our plan is to build the secondary building first, which will not unrelocate anyone. Then we will move our secondary students over, start the renovation of this process of the elementary, then move our elementary kids up, and then demolish. So kids will be in their classrooms during this whole time, which was really important to us. We didn't want to have to go and get a bunch of portable buildings and accrue those costs, and so this was very carefully thought through our committee.
What is capacity now?
In our building,
Well,
it's
in your classrooms, I don't even know what the rules are.
so TEA has very specific standards for different size classrooms, and it's based on square footage. That's with the understanding that all classrooms are built the same. And so in our current facility, not all classrooms are built the same. And so you'll have classrooms with different sizes. So as these kids move up for different classrooms, some is 700 square foot, like our high school English classroom, and our history classroom is 500 square feet. So I'm still fitting the same amount of kids in that 700 square feet to the 500 square feet. And so this plan, and those just building codes didn't exist when they constructed those buildings during that time. And so there's different square footages for elementary versus high school. It's very close to, I don't want to say it off the top of my head because I don't remember those specific numbers, but it's very close to like 650, 700. And it's a little,
What's the largest class?
that we have right now?
Yeah,
It's
number
720, I
No,
think.
like per class.
Per student?
Yeah, I don't think in hundreds very well.
That's okay, that's
Then we
okay.
go
Our
class
largest
to
class that we have right now is 21 students. 21 students.
Hmm. But the classrooms they're not big enough, like now they're not.
No,
big enough.
and I think Laura's gonna show you a visual here in a little bit that will help you answer your question.
Well, if
And-
I see it.
Yeah, you can see, I'm a visual too, so I think that'll help here in a little bit.
So I guess you're not going by Joe Biden rules, like when you just put thousands in.
No, we're not, and we're not putting marble on our floors. There's a school out in Amarillo that has, when you walk in, it's beautiful. But no, we really wanted to make sure that we took care of kids and right-sized classrooms, but no, we're not going for anything, the Taj Mahal of a school district.
One more question.
That's okay.
What is the bond length? I mean, yeah.
The amortization schedule, yes. Proposition A, so that's the instructional package, that's a 30-year amortization schedule with the option to pay off early. We did use very conservative numbers, looking at our property tax value. That was really important, and a very important aspect that our finance firm brought in. So we used very conservative numbers. So Pelican County and our district has seen about a 3 to 4% increase in property value year to year, but we went with the lower number, knowing that growth is coming, with the intention that with the growth we'll be able to pay that off early. So we did opt for an early payout. Proposition B, which is much smaller, which is the track, that has a 10-year amortization schedule. So we don't ever want to amortize something sometimes that don't last the life of a project, and so that was really important to us. All right, well, yes, ma'am.
The space that now occupies the elementary room, what is the plan for that when it's open?
Perfect. So again, Laura is going to share with you a long-range site plan. So I'm showing you current, and she's going to share with you. But right now, that's where we're going to move our playground. So just to get that off of the highway. Yep.
The trees that are now on the playground
Yes.
will be sacrificed.
We have not got to design process to exactly where that tree, what trees will be saved and whatnot. We have not. There is a tree on the left side of our elementary wing that's a memorial tree, and that will not be touched.
I was just looking at that big oak on the
I
highway.
know it, yes ma'am.
I know it's on the highway, but the playground is shaded and nice.
Yes, yes.
I told you that.
Yes, we're not touching that. We have a beautiful tree that, again, is
I
a
mean,
memorial
on the new
tree.
one, I'm proposing to plant trees
Yes,
on it,
yes ma'am.
not just the playground.
No, the tree will stay. We'll have shade for sure. That's very important. Our kids definitely like the shade.
May not seem like much in the, but it does mean something.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Y'all have any other questions? Again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Justin, where you're at, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I'm gonna switch this over.
You have to be my tech support.
I'll be your tech
For a
support
minute.
for just
a minute. You have
a
to be.
second. I will, there's that. Switch you over.
I think while Ms. Campbell is switching that over, we won't violate anything if I go ahead and pick up, because it'll touch base on two of the questions, I think. The tax base, and this goes more to Mr. Keck's question, the tax base of Gordon ISD currently is $180,000. So with that tax base, we knew 180 million, pardon me, 180 million. Thank you, 180 million. That gave us a cap of, at most, 13 million to be working with. That was at most. You certainly don't want to hit exactly that limit. And so then it leads more to your question, is it Mr. Floyd, I believe? Is that right? Your question more about different options. There are quite a few facilities in this school district that need attention. And you just have to, thank you.
Thank y'all, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
And so as a committee, you start looking at the needs. You have to make choices. And overcrowded classrooms, the overall age of instructional facilities, safety and security, the fact that you can't just keep deferring maintenance because then, you're just compounding your problem. Safety and security, all of those issues really rose to the top of our concern. The interest survey and the forum, one was done in 16, one was done in 17, a really huge interest of the community in career and tech programs, and certainly ag science is part of that, all of the different ag mechanics, ag science courses. But there's a whole long list of career and tech programs that could be available with appropriate facilities. If a pot of gold could be dropped on top of this district, I can promise you the Long Range Planning Committee would have jumped on that for career and tech, and then appropriate fine arts facilities. The survey and the interest forum really showed both of those resonated strongly with the community. But you have to make choices, and the choices began with what are the most critical needs. And the age of the facilities and maintaining the facilities, it's of paramount importance that we start dealing with some of these buildings. And it was of paramount importance that we start looking at getting the appropriate right-sized spaces to eliminate the overcrowding. And so I'll jump now more into my presentation, but I hope that helped a little bit on a segue between Superintendent Campbell's and my presentation. So she introduced me. I'm Laura Jones, and it was a privilege to be asked to serve on this long-range planning committee. And I was asked by Dr. Wilkins, and we began during his tenure, had to take that little break, and then picked up now under Ms. Campbell's tenure as superintendent. With me tonight are several members who were on the long-range planning committee, and now they have also jumped over to help be working among you promoting this bond. And so if they would stand, I'd like to recognize those who were able to come tonight. Judy Cathy, Sherry Holder, and Sherry was also on long range. Randy Savage, Spencer Sly, and Spencer was also on long range, and then Russell Stowe, and Russell was on long range. So several of us have stayed on to keep moving forward. And I have three main goals tonight. First of all, to hopefully paint a picture of the school district. A visual is worth 1,000 words. So you get a glimpse of what we as a committee looked at, the Long Range Planning Committee. Hopefully to engage you enough, and I know that would have been Ms. Campbell's goal too, to engage you enough to not only look at the materials you were handed, but jump on the district's website. She's got a tab, lots of documents underneath that tab. Look at all of those, and then ask questions and come to the tour. I mean, to educate, engage the community is what we all hope to achieve between now and the start of the election. And then lastly, as voters, I would certainly hope to move you to the point where you know that you are a yes vote, or if you're not there yet, I would ask that you seriously ponder this and ask more questions. Okay, how many of y'all have been to Graceland in Memphis? Raise your hand if you've been to Graceland. Well, everybody else just needs to go because it's a wonderful facility. But those of us who have been, would you agree that basically it's just frozen in time? The aesthetics of it, Elvis bought it in '57. He lived there till his death in '77. It's just frozen in time. To a little degree, that's where our our Gordon School is. And I have to tell you, from the moment I first walked into that building and started meeting people, and this was probably 6, 7 years ago, we moved here 10 years ago, I fell in love with the place, and I fell in love more with the people. So it has my heart. It has captured my heart. And I say that with a crack in my voice because that's a true statement. The facilities are spotless. I wished I'd had that crew when I was a principal. Teachers have decorated their classrooms. I mean, it's wonderful. Technology, thankfully, and I'm going to talk more detail in a minute, but thankfully we've been able to, especially this last 12 to 15 months, do some significant upgrades with the technology. But otherwise, it's a graceland. It's kind of frozen in time from the 60s and the 70s. Remember Ms. Campbell's slide that told you the age of all of those facilities? So yes, the district has done a marvelous job of taking care of it. But the number of deferred projects not only has increased the number of significant facility needs, but also the urgency of dealing with those needs. And we really are at a tipping point at this time. Funds spent on maintenance are really just kind of wasted dollars. The Long Range Planning Committee definitely relied heavily on that construction facility assessment by Gallagher and Associates. It was done in June of 2019, so very current. We also relied heavily on the safety studies, and there were 3 of those. Okay, welcome to our restrooms. We're in the secondary facility. This is junior high. Now, if this young man was standing at a urinal, which we could not do, take a picture of, but bless his heart, if he was standing over here at the urinal and someone was in this stall and opened it, his backside would be slapped with that door. That is how small the bathroom is. It does not meet ADA. In fact, none of the facilities in the secondary, the current high school, or the main building, I'm probably going to call it main building, none of them meet ADA, nor do the ones in the elementary. The one on the right is the high school. It has 2 stalls, 2 urinals. Significant plumbing problems. The architect has said basically the plumbing of the main building will have to be abandoned. They'll have to approach it in a different way because the clay pipes, and they're made of clay, have just crumbled. But they're very, very small. No wheelchair accessibility or walker if a person was on a knee board. We had that situation this fall with a teacher who had to go to outside over to the new gym to access a handicap facility. Girls' restroom, these pictures were taken 2 Mondays ago, so March 22nd. Had no idea that what that red sign says is toilet out of order. This wasn't planned or staged. This is just reality. I think there's 2 restrooms designated for faculty. One is currently unusable. It's just a significant problem that has to be dealt with now. You can't just keep patching it. A little bit more about restrooms. There's no hot water. And that is certainly a safety and sanitary hygiene issue. These 2 photos are our technology system. Over here, servers. This is kind of the technology center where Mr. Spear is. Now, thankfully, and here's a blessing, thankfully, in December 2019, the district received a very generous donation from a community benefactor, someone who has chosen to stay anonymous, and that allowed the district to purchase servers. And then if you've been in some of the classrooms, you see the conduit pipe, and over in the corner you see a hub. It's not the best way to deliver the instructional technology, but it does work. And so that was a huge boost. And then more recently, I think it was late spring, the district applied for a technology grant and received the grant, and that's how the district was able to purchase the Chromebooks, so that now the district is a one-to-one district with student to device. The technology right now, I can honestly say they haven't lost, as far as GISD, they haven't lost any instruction time due to technology issues. Now, today everybody was taking STAR tests across the state, and our state crashed, but that was not just Gordon. So we have a little bit of a positive here. So as a result, the technology, even though you would always want to continue to look at appropriate technology for 21st century learning, that is something that we can be proud of. Safety and security, I'm going to let you read down this list because I'm going to talk about most of that as we go along. To reiterate, the safety and security and the compliance with building codes, once you start renovating older facilities, you have to bring them up to all the codes. You can't just fix one thing. And that's another tipping point, in my terminology, tipping point where we are right now, because to significantly get in there and deal with the plumbing, you're just causing a cascading effect of problems that have to be rectified. Building codes, the accessibility codes, ADA, Texas Accessibility Standard, life safety standards. It just starts a cascading effect of what must be dealt with. This is the fire alarm. So if you're talking about safety and security, it's a manual alarm. It's in an assistant principal's office. So if this was after hours and I'm the theater teacher and we're practicing our one-act play and all of a sudden there is a fire, if this office is locked, and more than likely after hours it would be, there would be no way to set that alarm. There's no automatic fire alarm system, there's no automatic fire sprinkler system, there's not adequate exit signage. The classroom doors are not fire rated. Some open to the inside, some open to the outside. The classroom doors do not lock, and the door hardware does not meet accessibility standards. There's also no intercom system to call individual classrooms. So the safety and security piece is really of paramount importance. Wad of keys. Well, yeah, that's a wad of keys. That's Ms. Campbell's keys. So yes, can you go around and lock all of the doors? Yes, you certainly can, and they're locked until someone pushes out on them. The issue is you can't do that in a timely manner. In a crisis situation, you cannot do that in a timely manner. So some type of current modern day access control locking system is definitely a critical need. If you have visited Gordon, you're very familiar with the intercom kind of ring doorbell system here. This is kind of the one and only safety and security feature in the main entrance. What we would hope to add through the bond is at both entrances. So the new main entrance sits on 919, and then the current main door would become kind of like a back door. Both of those would have security vestibules that also have the covered area for weather, and then bollards. And bollards are, the pillars, you can make them all different kinds of shape to keep a vehicle from trying to crash in the doors. So, I think a significant upgrade in security. We have spent a lot of time talking about the playground, and the last day that really resonates with me that I drove through town right at noon was also St. Patrick's Day, and it caught my attention because all the kids were wearing green. So they just popped. They just popped. It also was the day we had that horrible sandstorm, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're out there in the middle of the horrible sandstorm. The district was able to get those concrete barriers several years ago, and that certainly helps. I think all of us, after we saw that horrendous wreck on 35 in Fort Worth during the Snowmageddon, realized that that barrier may not make the difference you would want it to make if truly one of those huge gravel haulers that goes up and down Main all the time got out of control. It is a joy to see kids playing, and I think that goes to a little bit your comment. It is a joy. In today's world, that joy may not be the safest thing. All it would take is someone even with just a pellet gun wanting to just maybe pop a kid on the bottom and kind of scare them, and yet they end up hitting them in the face. You know, today's world, you just really don't want children so visible and definitely on a state highway. Cafeteria, now this picture is from last year, and the reason I know it's from last year, and this is another one of those blessings. In the fall, the CARES Act, so the first kind of stimulus monies, the CARES Act, the county notified all the superintendents that they had money that they could distribute to the school districts, but they needed to apply for a grant. Ms. Campbell submitted the application, I believe maybe was the only district to do so, and the district received $30,000. And they bought furniture, because that furniture is going to go into whichever new instructional space. So today, it's actually very advantageous that they're not dealing with these bulky chairs. Now they have the cafeteria tables that are modular, so they flip and you can have a seat back, or they unflip and it looks kind of like a picnic table kind of cafeteria. To enlarge the size, that does help with the crowdedness now. To enlarge the size, the stage will have to be taken in. Now, in compensation, Ms. Campbell talked about that connecting element, and it had a collaborative space in it. That collaborative space is going to have like a 3-tiered area that can be kind of a small theater or small performance, or just, like honor society recognition or class recognition. That will certainly compensate, I think, for how this stage is currently used. And then, of course, there is the ability in the big gym, the competition gym, to do stages in there. The overcrowded classrooms, another significant concern, and Ms. Campbell talked about how TEA has standards for all of those. The math classroom that currently serves grades 7 through 12 is only 480 square feet, and yet by TEA standard, it should be 700 square feet minimum. Classrooms in the elementary wing are typically 576 square feet, our current size. Per TEA, elementary classrooms should be 750, and a kindergarten room should be 800. So we're off on the square footage, which means that teachers can't do the different kind of collaborative and learning centers that goes with today's teaching and learning. This is second grade, and you can see they have their new desk, and you can see the configuration is just in rows. I can almost guarantee you, if you walked into a classroom that was, for second grade, appropriate size, so 750 square feet, these desks would not be in rows. There would be so many other options. More than likely, they'd be in little pods of 4, but if not, they might be all around 3 sides of the room, kind of a U-shaped, to leave a big area in the center of the room for open activity. This is the only way they can fit. But good news, we try to give good news with bad news. Good news is those desks are incredible, and they're going to go wherever their new classroom is. The kids can just pick them up. Also at Gordon, there is no storage space in the classrooms. So there's not the little built-in cubbies and the hooks that you would find in a typical elementary classroom. The district has made these in the hall, but kids have to go out in the hall to access it. This one, and really draw your attention to this. Same classroom. It is a Spanish class. I don't know the classroom number, but it's Spanish. It is so crowded that there's no more rooms for desks, so these boys have just pulled up a chair and are against the wall. No more desks can go in this classroom. Whatever they're doing, they're on their Chromebooks, which it may be that their textbook is on the Chromebook. You can see right there where I'm making kind of a little U. The power cord is plugged in. So obviously kid needs power, and yet that's just, you know, an accident waiting to happen. This is the one and only science lab, and I would say this maybe to me is most representative of Frozen in Time, Frozen in 1967. To access the science lab,
That was like that when I was in high school. No.
well, okay, Julie, you're a little old there. Here is how you get into the lab, and you're actually going through a classroom to get into the lab, which is very awkward. The lab stations do not meet ADA. The classroom itself is way, way undersized. A science lab should be probably 1,000 square feet, and there will be 2 in the new facility. Antiquated vent hood. Ms. Cormack did ask this young man to do his Bunsen burner. To be quite honest, I do not think they can use that vent hood at all, even if it does work. It vents into the classroom that you just walked through to get to the lab. It is not safe, and so it's had to be abandoned. That eye wash station is not functional. So now we're to the track. The committee, and to be candid, really had hoped all of this could just be one proposition, because they looked at this that physical education, including competitive sports, is all part of the TEA's prescribed curriculum for the state of Texas. However, Ms. Campbell explained that because the size of our stadium is 1,000 or more, and ours is more than 1,000, new rule as of the last legislative session that you do have to have a different proposition. So this is Proposition B. The track was built in '91. So that is a crack. Cracks here. In fact, this looks more like maybe some kind of machinery has rutted it out. Now, before the season began this year, Coach Reed did have a contractor come in and do another little patch job. And the contractor was very candid. He said, I'll come in and do it. Here's some more examples of the track. I'll come in and do it, but I cannot guarantee that it will last for X number of years. He said more than likely it will last 2 or 3 more seasons, but I'm not going to guarantee it. Because underneath this surface, and it was resurfaced about 15 years ago, but at the foundational level, the foundation has enough significant problems that just like, you know, the bakers in the room, when you make a layer cake and they start cracking on it, you can ice them all you want, but then you put it in the carrier and you bring it to church for the church potluck, guess what? It's kind of cracked open again. They've got to take this down to the foundation and put a new foundation in and then resurface it. Life of a track is typically around 20 years. This one is 91 and resurfaced one time. Transportation. We did have a discussion about a transportation facility. What's being proposed is not a fancy facility. It's 3-sided. One end of it will be closed in a little bit of a, maintenance shed and storage facility, but it's not, all for garage. But it will be sized to house all the fleet. That fleet is going to flux. I mean, yeah, old buses get sold off, but then you get new ones. Maybe you decide you need a short bus. Maybe you need another suburban type vehicle instead of, another bus. So you would hope to protect those assets, that's a huge amount of dollars that you've spent on transportation. You would hope to be able to protect that. Where the facility is located, there's several options, and the reason that answer can't be quite given is perhaps there may even be some land acquisition to place the transportation center. So the design element is there. The exact X marks the spot on the treasure map, we're not quite sure yet. And I believe this is Coach Oliver hugging the new bus when it arrived. So the kids and the coaches and the teachers and everyone were real excited for those to arrive. Okay, master planning. The long-range planning committee, and really working hand in hand with the architectural firm, approached this of, since we don't have that giant pot of gold and we can't do everything at one time, let's at least make the footprint of the campus where sometime in the future, and the future is undefined. None of us have a crystal ball. So is this 10 years, is this 15 years, is this 20 years? None of us can truly answer that. But when that next tipping point comes, increase, a big significant increase in enrollment, when even though the cafeteria and kitchen have had some renovation, they now are absolutely maxed out and cannot serve kids anymore. When the enrollment is enough where the community, just a total big groundswell, says you've got to have additional career and tech courses, we need to have additional fine arts, we need special spaces for those. Whenever that future tipping point is, then there is at least a plan in place with this process of where that could be. So this is the same site map, but I'll point out some things. So we've talked about how the playground, and it is partly at district expense because the price tag of do-it-yourself, even if you need to tap into some fund balance dollars, was a much less price point than rolling it into this bond, is part of the answer, Mr. Floyd. But temporarily, and temporarily may be years and years and years, so maybe I shouldn't use the word temporarily. So step one, it will be relocated here and we'll have the fence around it to, bring some boundaries in. In the long run, where that elementary wing is that will be torn down, if and when that future time comes that the district has to do something again, the long-range master plan would be, that would be a location for a new cafeteria and new practice gym. The secondary facility, the grades 5 through 12, will be constructed, that there could be some addition there if it's ever needed. This connector element you see, besides connecting the new secondary facility and what will be the renovated elementary school facility, it's going to be a connector there for years and years to come. If that time comes where this becomes new cafeteria and practice gym area, it would be a connector over to that as well. Here on Main Street, there is room there and there if this facility needed to grow that direction. And so kind of either side of Main Street. Career and tech in the interim, I know that there will be larger classrooms made to accommodate certainly business computer lab, that's under career and tech. Computer science is a little bit standalone, but there'll be larger classroom. You have to have larger classrooms for computers. Maybe even larger classroom to do some type of the arts, visual arts, maybe the beginning of a music program. All of that's not within the committee's decision. That becomes all district decisions. But in the future, if the community says, yes, we want truly a career and tech facility and fine arts facilities, the district has that area if you did something and, built a new facility there, or you have land here. And yes, that's the existing gymnasium, old gym. This bond package has nothing to do with it. 20 years from now, it will still be here, I assume. It's valuable real estate. It all comes down to what are your needs. And if you need classrooms and you need specialty classrooms, what can the facility offer you? And if it can't offer you something within its four walls, what do you do with the land that it's on? Now, I really want to stress, we never, and I think my colleagues here can say that, we never put a timeline on what the future might be. We don't know. We don't have that crystal ball. We just felt it was imperative that if you're going to spend so much effort to plan something, that you plan that it can expand if the need arises. Most of you recognize that bell, don't you? That's in front of the current gym, competition gym. And I think most of you realize that those bricks and that bell and that plaque, all of that is from the original red brick school, 1922. Of course, it was on the footprint where the new gym is. So in the 60s, the superintendent and the board of trustees, and there are some of those trustees, and there is the former superintendent here, they were very prescient. They knew they had to be dynamic. They couldn't just stay, static. They knew they had to grow. And yet to honor that this is a legacy and a long legacy of greatness with the Gordon ISD, they put that commemorative bell and plaque there. So I'm going to read a closing statement and then I'll do my best to answer questions. The scope of this bond package addresses equity for all learners, whether new construction of a secondary facility for grades 5 through 12 or renovation of the main building for elementary grades pre-K through 4. All facilities will be move-in ready with adequate technology and appropriate furniture and instructional equipment and materials, meet current building codes such as fire safety as well as accessibility and life safety standards, ensure that classrooms are right-sized to Texas Education Association standards as well as designed for 21st century teaching and learning, not only meet the instructional needs of today's students, but allow for anticipated enrollment growth for the foreseeable future. And it is true that renovation of an older building, such as this current high school, the main building, is costly because of requirements to meet current building codes and standards. However, it is a building that can be renovated to be as good as new. Costly, but not as costly as completely new construction. Accessibility standards have been mentioned several times. The Americans with Disabilities Act was enacted in 1990. ADA is the law that Gordon ISD must adhere to. Just as today's teaching and learning modalities are not the same as 50, 60 years ago, neither are safety and security requirements. Students and teachers in the 1950s and early 60s, and I remember doing this in first and third grade, in the late 50s, early 60s, we practiced bomb drills. That was still in the Cold War era, and we practiced the get under your desk, duck and cover bomb drills. As of April 1999, the world as we know it in the United States changed with Columbine High School in Colorado. Today, duck and cover would be an old drill. Now our kids and teachers practice active shooting drills. Schools must be hardened to such nefarious acts, and even though we find joy in seeing children play, it is a huge safety concern that that's on a state highway and so visible to whomever drives by, and we don't know who that whomever person is. Your decision as a voter will mold the future for our children and our community. This bond is an investment in children, an investment in the Gordon community, and an investment in the market value of your home and property. At the most fundamental level, each of us pays school taxes now because someone paid them when we were school children. When the Board of Trustees voted 7-0 to call a bond election, in essence, they were asking Gordon ISD voters to trust the bond package meets the instructional needs for all children right now and in the future, and to adjust their yearly household budget to manage an increase in the district's INS, or interest in sinking, tax rate to pay that bond debt. The Long Range Planning Committee and now the Citizens Committee to campaign for passage of the bond understands the seriousness of our work. But we community members believe strongly that the bond package rectifies current critical needs and is also an investment in the future. This bond package represents good work. Good work is hard work. It's also rewarding work. And I would ask all of you to join with us hand in hand as we get busy as a community to do some good work. And so the campaign sign is, you have seen that we have formed our committee, we've raised funds. They are not district funds. I'm going to say that again, not different district dollars to have signs and to do some other promotional materials. These meetings we are doing as a two-part so that the district can present its information in a more clinical, just bond fact. Script is approved by legal counsel, and mine certainly factual, and I hope represents my colleagues on both committees, but a little more emotional perhaps, because I am here saying that we do hope that you will strongly consider voting yes to both Prop A and Prop B. Okay, now I'll do my best to do some questions. Do you have some questions for me? Yes, Bree?
I know that people had talked about this in the whole playground, but I will still have littles.
Can you come up here? I'm truly, I do have hard hearing. I have to admit that. Do you mind coming up here so that I can hear you? Because I want to hear you.
A little still confused about the whole playground, like William was saying, how right there at the top by
I forgot
the ag building, it says whatever from facility or whatnot, that little square at the top left. And then Ms. Campbell was saying where the elementary building was going to be. What does this have to do with the playground?
Okay,
Is
and
that
I didn't
supposed to be
finish that
out
up.
of the safety
No,
thing?
I didn't finish that up. Where it's going now, as my understanding with the superintendent and her staff, would be right in here. So still very close in. That will be secured with perimeter fencing. Not only kind of playground fencing, but all of this is going to have perimeter fencing. That's another safety issue. Now, if and when, and here gets to your question, I think, Bree, if and when this added growth happens, I'm just going to say that's 15 years from now, and that playground would need to make another move, it would come back more back here. It would be moved back a little farther. It would still be at that point, you would have to extend the ornamental perimeter fencing farther. That would be one more if and when. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry I bumbled that a minute ago. Yes, Kathy?
I don't know if you mentioned the size of the existing building and your projected size of the new building.
Okay, you're talking about enrollment or square footage? Okay, enrollment. You're gonna make me do that hard question. Okay, you've heard the current capacity. The architects tell us that just with this bond, so just with a new secondary facility 5 through 12 and renovated building here that of course includes the current cafeteria and kitchen, but they get renovated and expanded, that all of that with right-sized classrooms that could handle up to like 500. I don't know if any of us would place money on that significant of enrollment, but it's been asked this way, so I'm going to answer it in a different way, because I know to many people in the community the 6-man football is very, very sacred, and I get it. I do get that. with UIL enrollment, they look at the rising, what will be the 9th through 12th grade when they realign every 2 years. So even an enrollment growth of 100, easily 100, maybe even 150, you're talking enrollment growth pre-K through 12, that's 14 grades. You could handle that enrollment growth and not bump the actual UIL alignment of 6-man out of being 6-man. So that's another way to answer that question, but thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, sure.
I have 29 years at the school, so I have been experienced everything she's talking about. This is 10 years late, actually, because 10 years ago, we were at capacity, and maybe more. And so it's not, we're gonna grow, we're at capacity, we lost some people, and now we're coming right back up. But we you know, it was hard that year, trying to get kids in the right room, and, you know, trying to teach and have your stuff around to teach when you had to go to another room to get it, because big school, you know, big classes wouldn't fit in small classrooms. So it's not, it's been 10 years, it's still growing. And the reason it's in such good shape is Roger Rex wrote, my parents, me, Holly's husband, because I know many times during the summers, during the weekends, we were up for painting. We had to, many times I've been with the superintendent or principal and had to take the school would flood, and we'd have to, you know, shimmy out the water. So it's 10 years coming. This is not something new. We may grow more, but we are at capacity now because our kids can't move in the classrooms or anything. And that's from me from 28 years of being up there. So that's just my idea on it. So, and
Two little anecdotes. When in our committee meeting, so this is long-range planning, when the architect clarified, well, the capacity, current capacity is 230. People like Sherry, who was a teacher, now retired, and then the admin staff that was sitting in as our liaisons, there was a gasp. And then immediately after this gasp, it was like, where would we put 10 more kids? So, you know, when you have to do that two-step shuffle and be a floating teacher because you're trying to find a classroom that will handle them, that really is a disruption to teaching. That is not facilitating teaching, that's disrupting teaching. And I'm going to share one more anecdote, and I know we've been here 90 minutes, and I do appreciate your patience, but this is really a game changer for this community. So thank you for coming to be educated. And what I would say is, please share with your neighbors and your fellow church members and your social club people and anyone you know. There's another presentation Sunday afternoon at BJ's in Mingus at 4:30. We have another Gordon one planned, but for the community center on April the 15th at 6:30. And then just Ms. Campbell is presenting to the Gordon City Council on Monday the 12th. And then just Ms. Campbell is presenting to the Mingus City Council on April 21st. So early voting will have started, but still, you know, in just the first couple of days. So lots of opportunity. Everything I just said is open to the public. Lots of opportunities to hear about this. So, you know, tell people about the district's website. Go on there and look. Show them the materials. All you have to do is walk into school and ask for materials, and you can be given those. Those are district prepared materials. But this last anecdote just tells you the level of love that this community has for Gordon schools. When we had Snowmageddon, and it was hitting that weekend of Valentine's, so I think I've got my details correctly. That Saturday, former Superintendent Randy Savage calls Ms. Campbell, and kind of late, and said, Holly, I would just be remiss, and I couldn't sleep if I didn't tell you that if you didn't already do this, you better go up there and do it. If you didn't go into that elementary wing and open up all of those tiles in all of the classrooms, you're going to have a facility with busted pipes, and you won't be able to pick up school whenever this horrible storm finally gets behind us. And And so I'm sure it was Lyle and I don't know, some coaches, and they're up there doing the balance on the desk, and they're popping them. Well, when they were able to go back into that facility, 2 minor leaks. And that's because someone cared enough to make a late night phone call and say, you may not know this, but I know this, and it needs to be done. Thank you. So we have loved this district. We need to keep loving it. Any other questions? Maybe we can just say amen. 2 pastors, let's just say, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Williams.
That's okay. Can I make one statement that has nothing to do with this?
Sure.
Okay.
And you're gonna see him because he is a tall guy.
Somewhat. For those of y'all who don't know, I'm Bob Weeds, doesn't matter who I am. When I first moved here, I bought a house that was not disclosed to me as a flood property. Well, it is flood property. I went to the city of Gordon. City of Gordon had not agreed to participate with FEMA or the NFIP. Through 2 city council meetings, they did agree to do that. So if anyone does have on, like me, flood property, you can buy flood insurance at a greatly reduced rate now. I would like as many people to know that as possible, because a lot of people in Gordon, their homes do flood in a big rain. They may not be aware of this, that they can buy flood insurance now. My flood insurance went from $2,100 a year to $500 a year. So it's that kind of difference. I'm done.
Laura, in closing, as a school board member, I guess when it was mentioned to us at one of our meetings that we had to turn away 2 students from enrolling in Jordan ISD because we didn't have capacity. Those 2 students were transfers. We would not have been able, we could not have turned them away if they had actually lived in Jordan. So we are at a necessity. We need you to recruit our students. So that just tore my heart out. But if you got somebody wanting to come to Gordon for an education, and we have to turn them away, that's not fair.
Well, and to dovetail on that, that also meant that the state monies that go with a student, we did not receive those because the answer had to be no. And that was pushing $13,000 combined for the 2 of them. That's pretty significant money on your maintenance and operation. The last thing I'll say, and you would see, Sherry, for those who reside in Gordon, and I really think it's most of you, if you think you would want one of the signs just to show your support, the vote yes, strong community, strong school, strong community, swing by and Sherry will sign up and we'll hand deliver it to you. So we'll be excited. Oh, Bree's already raising her hand. You have to come sign up.
I will.
Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you for spending so much time.